The Menendez brothers' coverage can best be described as a media circus, fueled by sensationalism that transformed a real-life tragedy into mass entertainment. Throughout the decades, the coverage has evolved from a live courtroom drama to modern, culturally reflective true crime phenomenon. And with changes on how we view things in society and new information surrounding this story, public pressure has ramped up. Was what they did justified, and have they done their time? And if this happened more recently, would two individuals in that same situation get the same treatment? And with the very recent parole hearing, the reasons for their denial may shock you. So all that being said, everything's alleged. Welcome to The Point. Let's get to it. Erik and Lyle Menendez were denied parole by a California board this week after decades in prison for passing their parents in 1989 at their Beverly Hills mansion. During 2 days of hearings, the brothers were each questioned by panels of 2 commissioners and asked to speak with complete candor about the situations they suffered in childhood, their mindsets leading up to and after the attacks, and various prison transgressions. The brothers were sentenced to life in prison in 1996 for fatally attacking their mother and father. The case has long captivated true crime enthusiasts, with brothers amassing public support in the past year after shows on Netflix renewed interest. Now I gotta say, simply saying Netflix came out with a special that has renewed interest, and that renewed interest isn't because there's any new information isn't a fair take. There's 100% new information, which is why Netflix started paying attention. You had that one individual from Menendez, I believe, who came out and said Kyle and Lyle's father did to him what they claim their father did to them. And we have had social shifts. Things like this were relatively uncommon back then, because if you came out and said something like that, you would probably get made fun of, you would probably get picked on, and you'd probably be called a liar. But with the information back then in a trial today, would 2 individuals receive this same type of sentence? Would they get life behind bars with no possibility of parole? Which, let's keep in mind, wasn't their original sentence. And we'll get to the reasons for the denial in just a second, but there's more to the article. Listen to this. The hearings mark the closest they have come to freedom since their convictions. Despite each receiving 3-year denials, they will be eligible to request an administrative review in 1 year. If granted, they could appear before the parole board again as early as 18 months from now. Here are the key takeaways from the hearings. While it might not seem like a big deal to the non-incarcerated public, commissioners emphasized to the 2 brothers that their use of illicit cell phones cast a shadow on their positive achievements while behind bars. Cell phones can be used to order attacks, move substances, and coordinate other attacks on officers, they noted. Their presence meant a correctional officer had to smuggle them in, and a prison gang may have benefited by charging a tax on it. Commissioner Robert Barton told Erik Menendez, "What I got in terms of the phone and my connection with the outside world was far greater than the consequence of me getting caught with the phone," Erik Menendez said. He said he used it to speak to his wife, watch YouTube, listen to music, and watch movies. In denying him parole, Barton said his behavior was selfish, a sign he believes the rules do not apply to him and the ends justify the means. Lyle Menendez had 2 recent cell phone infractions, including one in March. He said correctional staffers were monitoring his communications with his wife and family and selling their content to tabloids. So he saw cell phones as a privacy measure. There was a lot of stress in his marriage around the time he was transferred to prison in San Diego, and he wanted to stay in touch with his wife, he said. "I had convinced myself that this wasn't a means that was harming anyone but myself in a rule violation," Lyle Menendez said. "I didn't think it really disrupted prison management very much." Now, that reason for the denial isn't necessarily something I fully disagree with or I fully agree with. There's a lot of gray area here. Yes, there's a valid reason for them to not have cell phones. There's a reason for them to monitor communications. Prisons are dangerous, they have dangerous people, and they want to do things that are illegal and cause other people harm. But on the flip side of that argument, if you're a high-profile inmate, or you're an inmate that has a lot of public interest, and there are people within the prison system selling your private conversations for profit, then I gotta say that's an issue. That's an issue for the prison system. And if the prison system can't keep these people in order, and they can't prevent this private information from being sold for profit, then you can't fault the inmate for wanting a cell phone. And I would wonder in that denial, is that something they're going to address with the prison staff? Is that something they investigated? I understand that your right to privacy in a prison setting is far less than what you would get on the outside world, but I gotta say I have a problem with correctional staff taking private information and selling it for profit. I mean, once again, if we're no better than the people we're incarcerating, what does that say about us? You got to treat people like people. If you're going to hold inmates accountable for rules violations, you need to hold correction staff accountable as well. Let's not forget, absolutely do not forget, these illegal cell phones and these problems we're having in prison, while maybe driven by the inmates, they're facilitated by the staff. So there is an issue here. There is a need for a correction. And that correction needs to happen immediately if we want to see things get better for those individuals inside. Of the two, Erik Menendez committed more serious rules infractions. Commissioners questioned why he associated himself with a prison gang called the Two Fivers and helped them with the tax scheme around 2013. Menendez said he was trying to survive an extremely violent yard where close friends were attacked. I was in tremendous fear, he said, when the Two Fivers came and asked for help. I thought it was a great opportunity to align myself with them and to survive. Menendez told commissioners that he prioritized protecting himself over the rules because at the time he had no hope of ever getting out. He used party favors in his early years behind bars, but became sober in 2013 on his mother's birthday, he said. While Lyle Menendez committed fewer violations, Commissioner Julie Garland said he still demonstrated antisocial personality traits like deception, minimization, and rule breaking that lie beneath the positive surface. Prisoners who break rules are more likely to do so in society as well, she said. Once again, what exactly are the rules that they're breaking? And how serious are those rules? I understand every rule matters, and if you're trying to come up for parole, you need to show that you can live within the rules you're provided. And if you'll break rules on the inside, you'll break rules on the outside. Well, on the outside, a lot of people break rules every day. There are people who look at their cell phone while driving. There's people who don't wear their seatbelt while driving. There's individuals that speed. People take pens and sticky notes from work. I mean, so if the rules they're violating are petty, then why are you holding it against them so severely? Now, yeah, if they're out there beating down people, if they're peddling substances around the yard, and they're in some sort of smuggling operation to move goods from one spot to another, I can kind of see that as a major issue. But also, once again, when you put these people in a situation where they feel like their life is being threatened, what do you expect them to do? I mean, like it or not, as a society, regardless if you're on the inside or you're on the outside, self-preservation is very motivating. Self-preservation will make you do things you wouldn't necessarily do. Now, to sit here and say they're not the model inmates that have been portrayed in the mainstream media and in these Netflix specials and make it out as if they're 100% troublemakers, I don't believe it's a fair take. I feel like there's more to this. And I feel like this parole board is dodging the elephant in the room, so to speak. Because they're not in prison for simple infractions. They didn't receive life without the possibility of parole at one point in time because of simple infractions. They passed away both their parents, and they received a very harsh sentence. But they're not talking about the fact of the societal changes. If what had happened back then happened today, there is no way two people would have received life behind bars without the possibility of parole, and then decades later find out there is a chance of parole. I mean, you're kind of holding stuff against these people for no reason. The big question is, have they done their time? Have they learned their lesson? I mean, we got Gypsy Rose walking around a millionaire apparently. She did the same thing. So what's the difference here? Well, they got more infractions. Listen to this. Commissioners expressed concern over the attack of Kitty Menendez, with Barton saying that he found it showed Erik Menendez was devoid of human compassion at the time. I can't put myself in your place. I don't know that I've ever had raised to that level ever, Barton said. But that's still concerning, especially since it seems she was also a victim herself of DV. Which, yes, to me, I kind of see it the same way. It does seem like Kitty was dealing with some issues as well. And once again, I'm not trying to make the case that any of this is okay, or that the Menendez brothers shouldn't be punished at all. The question here is, if it happened today, with the same conditions that it happened back then, would they receive the same sentence? Barton said the brothers were not in imminent fear of their lives and should have sought help from other family members or gone to the police. As for Lyle Menendez, Garland said attacking Kitty one final time was extremely callous. She also highlighted his actions in covering up the crimes such as lying to police and trying to avoid prosecution. Well, what did you think they were going to do? And the parole board's kind of speaking out of both sides of their mouth, making the statement what they should have did was reach out to family members and go to law enforcement to get help from this situation. But we all know if they would have done that at that time, there's no way they would have received any help. There is no way law enforcement would have believed them. I mean, culturally speaking, at the time, the world was completely different. So you can't sit here and say what you should have done back then is what somebody would have done today, and you would have got the help you needed when everybody knows none of that help would have been received. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you, there's people making this complaint right now in modern society and they're still not getting help. And that's just a lot of doublespeak. That's just how I'm seeing it. Now, as always, this is just an open discussion channel, so you can feel free to disagree down in the comments below. Governor Gavin Newsom previously ordered California Parole Board to conduct a risk assessment of the brothers in a response to a clemency request. While it was never made public, Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman revealed in May that both brothers were deemed moderate risk. Martin said he deemed that assessment to be neutral, as far as he considered it at all. A 2022 analysis by the Prison Policy Initiative showed that California prisoners with moderate risk were granted parole 22% of the time. The nonprofit ranked the state as among the most difficult for obtaining parole, which you can't have prisons for profit without prisoners. More than a dozen relatives spoke at the two hearings to advocate for their release. Jose Menendez's sister said she is passing from stage 4 cancer and wishes them to come home. I want to make clear that although I love my brother, I fully forgive Erik, she said. Erik carries himself with kindness, integrity, and strength that comes from patience and grace. Natasha Leonardo, Kitty Menendez's great niece, promised the parole board that she would provide a home of unconditional love and stability for him in Colorado, where he could spend time with his family and nature. Family members said in a statement that while they are disappointed the parole was denied, they are not discouraged. We know there are good men who have done the work to rehabilitate and are remorseful, they said. We love them unconditionally and will continue to stand by them on their journey ahead. And to me, that's big and that's telling. You have the family right here. The family who was most affected by this situation. And they believe it's time for them to come home. They believe it's time for them to be free. They believe they've paid their debt to society. And in a lot of ways, I believe they paid their debt to society as well. Primarily because I don't believe anybody who had committed a crime like that in today's society would receive the same sentence. They would receive some type of lengthy sentence. They should be punished, and they have been punished, and they should rehabilitate themselves or make attempts to rehabilitate themselves and seek help where needed. And if they've done those things to the best of their ability, then they should be set free. Or set free under certain terms and conditions. However you want to phrase it, there's a lot of ways to do this thing. There's a lot of ways other than saying no. I mean, you're holding a lot of stuff over their head when at a time there was no chance that they were going to get out. And I view those two situations differently, and I don't think that can be held against them. Once again, I'm not saying they're innocent. I'm not saying they didn't commit a crime. I believe they committed a crime. We know they committed a crime. They admitted to committing that crime. But I don't think we should hold an old sentence over two individuals' heads when we fully know that this wouldn't be the same outcome in modern day society. I mean, the world has changed, and it's time for these people to change as well. And these reasons for this denial are ticky-tack at best. I mean, they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth, or at least that's how I feel like they're doing. And as always, you can feel free to disagree at any point in time, but if you enjoyed this and a more fair, open conversation, maybe check one of these videos out. Y'all be safe now.